It's 2 a.m. You're lying in the dark, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down on the nightstand because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your mind is racing. You feel broken. You feel like something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. You are not broken. You are ancient. For most of your life, you've been told that a good night's sleep means one long, unbroken block of 8 hours. Lights out, silence, stillness until morning. If you wake up in the middle of the night, something has gone wrong. That's the story you've absorbed. It came from clocks and factories and light bulbs. It did not come from your ancestors. Your body has a different memory, a much older one. Go back before electricity, before street lamps, before a single glowing screen existed anywhere on Earth. Go back to a world where night meant true darkness and darkness meant danger. Predators moved in the dark. Rival groups moved in the dark. Fire needed tending in the dark. Sleeping straight through 8 hours of that would have been a liability, not a luxury. The historian Roger Kirch spent years combing through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe, and he found something remarkable. People didn't sleep in one block. They slept in two. A first sleep that began not long after dusk, followed by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night, followed by a second sleep that carried them until dawn. That waking hour had a name. People called it the watch, and it wasn't wasted time. During the watch, you might have prayed. You might have talked quietly with the person beside you. You might have gotten up to check the fire, or nursed a child, or simply lain there, half awake, half dreaming, thinking. Some records even describe a kind of relaxed, dreamlike clarity during this hour, a state some historians believe inspired visions, poetry, and quiet insight. It wasn't insomnia. It was a scheduled pause built into the architecture of the night. So why does this feel so unfamiliar to you now? Because somewhere along the way, night stopped being dark. Cheap, abundant artificial light changed everything. Once you could push back sunset with the flip of a switch, the boundary between day and night blurred. Sleep got compressed into a single, efficient block, squeezed to fit around work schedules and electric evenings. The two-part night didn't survive the transition. It simply had no place left to happen. Think about how fast this shift actually was, in the scale of human history. Gaslighting spread through cities in the early 1800s. Electric streetlights followed by the 1880s. Within about a century, most of the industrialized world went from darkness governs the night to night barely exists. 100 years is nothing. It's 3 or 4 grandmothers stacked end to end. Your biology, meanwhile, had been calibrating itself to real darkness for hundreds of thousands of years before that. You are asking a system built over an almost unimaginable stretch of time to fully rewire itself in about the length of one family's living memory. And it isn't just light that changed. It's what filled the newly available hours. Factories needed workers on fixed shifts, not workers who drifted in and out of two-part nights on their own internal schedule. The industrial clock demanded one block of labor, followed by one block of rest, repeating precisely day after day. Segmented sleep wasn't just inconvenient for this new rhythm, it was actively incompatible with it. So it was trained out, generation by generation, until almost nobody remembered it had ever been normal at all. But here's the strange part. Your biology never got the memo. The neuroscientist Charles Czeisler at Harvard Medical School has spent decades studying what happens when you strip modern light away. In controlled experiments, when people were kept in long, dark nights with no artificial light, something ancient reappeared almost immediately. Their sleep split. A block of rest, then a period of quiet wakefulness, then another block of rest. The exact rhythm Kirch found buried in centuries-old diaries showed up again, in a lab within days. That means the 2 a.m. wake-up you dread might not be a malfunction at all. It might be your body trying to do what it has always done, interrupted by a world that no longer gives it permission to do it slowly. Think about what this actually meant for the people living it. A household without a divide between productive daytime and restful nighttime, the way you experience it. The fire needed feeding every few hours, or it would die, And a dead fire in the cold meant real danger by morning. Someone had to be at least half alert to tend it. Infants needed feeding on their own unpredictable schedule, not yours. Predators didn't announce their approach politely. A night broken into watchable segments wasn't a flaw in the system. It may have been the system working exactly as intended, a built-in safety net stitched into human biology over hundreds of thousands of years of vulnerable communal nights. And there's something else buried in Kirch's research that rarely gets mentioned. The watch wasn't lonely. In many of the accounts he found, the waking hour was shared. Couples talked. Neighbors, in shared sleeping quarters, murmured to each other across the dark. There are even records of people visiting each other's homes during the watch, as casually as you might text a friend at midnight now, except they walked there, in the dark, because staying briefly awake together was simply part of how a night unfolded. Your 2 a.m. wakefulness comes wrapped in isolation and a locked phone screen. Theirs came wrapped in company. Now you might be picturing hunter-gatherers as the true ancient baseline, the ones living closest to how humans have slept for hundreds of thousands of years. And this is where the story gets even stranger. The sleep researcher Jerome Siegel at UCLA led a landmark study observing 3 modern hunter-gatherer and forager societies, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, groups whose lives remain physically closest to how humans lived before agriculture. Using wearable sleep trackers over months of real nights, his team found something nobody expected. These groups did not consistently split their sleep into 2 blocks. Many nights, they slept in a single continuous stretch, just a shorter one than modern sleep guidelines assume, often under 7 hours, and almost always ending well before sunrise. So which is it? Was ancient sleep segmented, or was it one continuous stretch? The honest answer is both, depending on where and when you're looking. Sleep was never one fixed ancestral formula locked in stone. It flexed. It adapted to climate, to season, to safety, to how much artificial light and heat a group had access to. What stayed constant wasn't the pattern, it was the flexibility itself. That flexibility is the real inheritance, the thing you're still carrying around in your nervous system tonight. Not a rigid 2-part schedule you're failing to follow. Not a strict 7-hour single block you're falling short of. A nervous system built to bend around darkness, temperature, danger, and company, and to treat all of those adjustments as completely unremarkable. That's worth sitting with for a moment. The thing modern sleep advice often gets wrong isn't the science, it's the certainty. 8 hours, unbroken, every night, or something has failed. But if your ancestors' sleep flexed by climate and circumstance for hundreds of thousands of years, then a single correct pattern was never really the point. Adaptability was. Your ancestors didn't panic over a segmented night because a segmented night wasn't a crisis. It was simply Tuesday. It was expected. Nobody was lying there in the dark, catastrophizing about tomorrow's meeting, calculating how many hours of sleep they had left, watching a glowing clock count down their failure. The watch was allowed to just be quiet time. Empty, unproductive, and completely fine. You, on the other hand, have a phone. Here's the twist that should genuinely unsettle you. The moment you wake at 2 a.m. and reach for your phone, you're not comforting an ancient anxiety. You're feeding it the exact ingredient it evolved to be starved of. Light. Bright, blue heavy light, at close range, in the dead of night. Your ancestors' nighttime wakefulness happened in near total darkness, which kept their internal clock intact. Yours happens under a screen bright enough to tell your brain it's daytime. So the ancient watch, that quiet, expected pause in the middle of the night, gets hijacked. Instead of a calm hour of low-stakes wakefulness, you get an hour of scrolling, comparing, worrying, and further postponing sleep. Then you blame yourself for having broken sleep in the morning. Nothing about your body is broken. What's broken is the expectation. Consider how much of your daytime anxiety about sleep is actually manufactured by that expectation. You wake at 2 a.m. and the first thought isn't curiosity, it's arithmetic. 5 hours left. 4 hours left. A countdown clock bolted onto what used to be a quiet, ordinary pause. Your ancestors weren't doing that math because nobody had told them 8 consecutive hours was the only version of enough. They didn't have a number to fall short of. You do, and you carry it into the dark with you every single night, which is its own kind of exhausting, long before the alarm ever goes off. There's a reason sleep researchers today increasingly talk about sleep anxiety as its own separate problem, distinct from whatever caused the original wakefulness. The worry about not sleeping can keep you awake far longer than the initial disruption ever would have. Your ancestors, lying awake by firelight, weren't spared from every hardship of their era, but they were spared from this particular one. Nobody had convinced them that a broken night made them broken people. Think about how differently you might treat your own 2 a.m. if you stopped treating it as a malfunction. What if you let it be the watch? No phone, no glowing numbers, no panic about hours lost, just darkness and quiet and permission to be awake for a little while. The same permission a person 1,000 years ago would have taken completely for granted. You are not failing at sleep. You are running very old software on a system that no longer respects the dark it was built for. So tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll flip a switch and light will flood the room, and you won't think twice about it. But if you wake at 2 a.m. and the world is quiet and your mind is oddly, gently awake, try this. Don't reach for the light. Let it be the watch. Because the real answer was never that something is wrong with you. The real answer is that you're ancient and it's still working exactly as it was built to.